Thanks for making time to join us. The details now. Today marks 7 years since the flood and fire disaster in Accra, which left more than 150 persons dead and many others missing. Victims continue to face difficulties. While the head of settlement studies at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Professor Divine Ahaji, says another disaster could happen anytime soon. We'll hear from him shortly. But first, what did the committee tasked to investigate the disaster recommend to forestall a recurrence? Elton Broby has details in the following piece.
To prevent a future occurrence of the tragedy that hit the country on June 3rd, the Disaster Committee recommended the complete dredging of the door drain, a ban on the use of plastic as carrier bags, water dispensers, and cooked food containers. It also suggested standardized training, certification, and licensing of filling stations attendants, the creation of sanitation police, compulsory fitting of all commercial vehicles with refuse basket or bins, and equipping of disaster managers with the requisite tools to effectively handle disasters.
Well, not much of that has been done, and Professor Divine Ahaji believes another big flood disaster could happen soon.
Looking at what is happening currently, it's better we begin to focus our attention on how to prepare in case of emergency, on the terms of preparation, response, recovery, and mitigation, so that we should be able to focus on how, if such a situation happens, we're going to evacuate the people, where we are going to send them to, what will be the community action and network, what contact numbers are available for people to call, if there's the need for communities to do rehearsal on how they are going to evacuate and where they are going to evacuate to. These are issues that I think we have normally not focused attention on. So my suggestion is that looking at what has happened in the recent weeks, we shouldn't wait and have a catastrophe before we begin to be thinking about what to do. And where is a probability, it may happen or it may not happen. But even if it doesn't happen, you have still used the occasion to do capacity building in terms of preparing the minds of the people that this is the nature of the flood situation in Ghana, and there's the likelihood that we can always have the June 3rd situation repeating. And so everybody should be on board so that we all begin to have a strong community engagement where we all put our mind to what we can do collectively to be able to avoid in terms of the risk and the impact in terms of mitigating it.
Well, this morning, Pressure Group One Movement Ghana is calling for the punishment of persons whose actions and inactions led to the twin disaster. According to the group, justice delayed for those affected is justice denied, and a failure of the duty of care owed to fellow citizens. This is contained in a press statement issued today. Let me bring you the full details. So it's captioned "Justice for June 3." 7 years on. It was a rainy and windy night, just as had been the norm. The Goyle filling station at Circle and many other filling stations across the country provided temporary shelter for commuters who are usually caught up by rains while in transit to or from work. The night of June 3, 2015 was not an exception, but an avoidable disaster struck when flood waters, fire and fuel merged to cause a great inferno, which left at least 154 dead and more than 200 injured and 2,500 affected. For some, this may sound like a ritual recall of statistics, but it is not. These are real lives of fathers, mothers, wives, husbands, brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles, children, old and young, that were affected by the tragedy. As expected, authorities rushed to the scene the following day with the usual promises to bring perpetrators to book. 7 years on, no one has been held accountable for this avoidable disaster. The government of the day and the government today have all but paid lip service to justice accountability, and commensurate compensation for victims. The disaster of June 3, 2015 was not an act of God. They were the combined consequence of bad governance and corporate negligence on the part of politicians and public office holders who owed the people of Ghana a duty of care. The One Ghana movement has since 2017 been pursuing justice for the victims and people of Ghana. The movement and the victims, through our lawyers, Samson Ladi Anyanene and Kelly Kwesi Delata, both working pro bono for this cause, commenced a class action lawsuit in 2018 pursuing GOIL, the National Petroleum Authority, and the Accra Metropolitan Assembly for their complicity in the disaster. It is our hope that the pursuit of justice will not only rest in fair compensations for victims and their families, but will, in the end, punish officials found culpable and drive the sense of accountability and responsibility on the part of citizens, corporate Ghana, and public officials. Well, a convener of the group, Senyor Hosi, has been addressing the media at Ground Zero, the scene of the disaster.
The government of the day and the government today have all but paid lip service to justice, accountability, and commensurate compensation for victims. The disaster of June 3, 2015 was not an act of God. They were the combined consequence of bad governance and corporate negligence on the part of politicians and public office holders who owed the people of Ghana and the victims here the duty of care. The One Ghana movement has since 2017 been pursuing justice for the victims and the people of Ghana. The movement and the victims, through our lawyers, Samson Ladi Ayenini and Kelly Kwesi Delata, both working pro bono, commenced a class action suit in 2018, pursuing GOIL, the National Petroleum Authority, and Accra Metropolitan Assembly for their complicity in the disaster. It is our hope that the pursuit of justice will not only result in fair compensation for the victims and their families, but will in the end punish officials found culpable and drive the sense of accountability and responsibility on the part of citizens and corporate Ghana and public officials. Avoidable disasters will not stop when no one is punished for this negligence and dereliction of duty. On June 3, we said never again. And yet again, there was gas explosion, atomic explosion, Takrady explosion, and more. We certainly cannot continue this way as a country. We cannot go on this way at all as a country. 7 years on, we wish to remind government and the judiciary that justice delayed for the lives affected is justice denied, and a failing of their own duty of care to their own fellow citizenry. May God continue to keep and protect the affected persons and their family.
So that's Senyor Hosi, one of the conveners of the One Ghana movement. My colleague Samuel Kojo has been speaking to some victims who are calling for compensation. Apologies for that. We'll bring you details of that interaction he had with some of the victims of the June 3 flood and fire disaster. Let's move on to other stories now. The Wa Circuit Court has granted bail to 3 suspects arrested in connection with the public flogging of 2 lovers in the Upper West Region capital Wa. The 3 include 70-year-old driver Na Isaaku Mahama, 62-year-old farmer Na Sidiki Osman, and 32-year-old mobile phone repairer Bushran Kediri. 25 others who were arrested during Wednesday's face-off with the police have also been screened. 13 of them have been granted bail to the tune of 3,000 Ghana cedis with 2 sureties. JoyNews' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
Calm has returned to Wa following yesterday's storming of the Wa police station by some Irish youth in the Wa municipality. The Irish youth were demanding the release of 3 suspects who were arrested in connection with the flogging of 2 lovebirds at the Wana's Palace. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mounted several roadblocks, pelted the police with stones, amid singing local war songs. Upper West Regional Commander of the Ghana Police Service, DCOP Peter Ndekur and Buri, stated that the police responded by firing into the air, assaults and tear gas toward them all.
And they were throwing stones, all sorts of missiles. But notwithstanding, the police managed to weather the storm and went all round to arrest about 18 to 20 of them, and they are currently in our custody. They will be put before court this month.
Any casualties are recorded?
No casualty recorded, no injury. The only thing we recorded is that damaging of public property, and that is the street lights, which they pulled one down and broke it into pieces. And that is of great concern to the people of this nation.
25 persons were arrested and no injuries on any of the sides. The 3 persons that were arrested in connection with the flogging of the 2 lovebirds were arraigned before the Wasikud court. Their 70-year-old driver, Isaku Mahama, 62-year-old farmer, Sidigo Usman, and 32-year-old mobile phone repairer, Busran Kidiri. Prosecuting Police Detective Sergeant to arrest the prime suspect, whose name has been given as Degona Na Adam Seydou Pelepu, and that releasing them on bail will lead to interferences from some of the suspects who are at large. The presiding judge, Justice Jonathan Abu, refused to grant the wish of the prosecutor, arguing that since the 2 are not the persons who committed the act, there is no need keeping them in police custody. Apart from that, they have the name of the prime suspect and to use best policing methods to arrest him. In order not to further exacerbate the tension in the town, he granted the 3 accused persons bail in the sum of 3,000 Ghana cedis with 5 different sureties for each of the trio. He concluded, urging the accused persons to cooperate with the police for the latter to be able to finish their investigations on or before the adjourned court date of June 13, 2022. The 25 persons who were arrested in Wednesday's face-off with the police demanding the release of the 3 suspects were screened and properly profiled to 13. They were also granted bail by the court in the sum of 3,000 Ghana cedis and with 3 sureties. They are also to report to the police every other 2 days. Earlier in the day, the Upper West Regional Security Council, led by its chairman, Dr. Hafiz bin Sali, held an emergency meeting on the issue and later called on the Wall Overlord, now for Seydou Pelepu IV, at his palace. The meeting was closed to the media, but was believed to be centered on finding legal ways to calm the tension in the Wa Township. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam. Wa.
So that's my colleague Rafiq Salah from the Upper West Regional Capital. While we understand now that the WANA says that he gave instructions for the flogging to happen. This is despite an earlier report that he had nothing to do with it. Away from that, workers at public universities across Ghana have announced their detachment from the National Union, that's the Teachers and Educational Workers Union, TEWU, of the Trade Union Congress. The association, now formerly known as Tertiary Education Workers Union of Ghana, that's TEWU-GH, says it has run out of patience with the lackadaisical and what it calls the irresponsible attitude of the national leadership of TEWU-TUC. Now, TEWU Ghana alleges its conditions of service have for the past 14 years been renewed after several negotiations. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright Kweku has more in this report.
Workers in various public universities across the country converged at the KNUST campus to officially outdoor the new association. Leadership of the new national umbrella says it was unhappy with how their erstwhile national executives of TEU TUC treated petitions brought before them. Members say they are bearing the brunt of the high cost of living as the leadership of TEU TUC has failed to negotiate for renewal of its conditions of service after expiration in 2008, among others. Suleimana Abdurrahman is the chairman of TEU GH.
Everyone you see behind me or with me here are the executive of all the public universities in Ghana. So this decision that we have taken, Legon executives are part, UCC executives are part, KNUST, UEW, UMAT, UHAS, UDS, and all the other universities, including Amstec and other very new universities. We want to state categorically that we are no longer under the umbrella of TEU TUC-GH, TEU National. We want to hold the fort by ourselves so that when we negotiate with the government, part of what we have negotiated will not be taken away as they have done in our recent negotiations, which is, allowances that was negotiated for an MOU signed with Fairways and Salary Commission with government. By the end of the day, the National Union went behind us. These allowances was cut off.
The association said it is claiming all its assets and liabilities of TEU of TUC-GH in the respective public universities. Charles Arthur is the interim chairman for TEU GH KNUST Local.
The new union takes asset and liability of the old union because we are in the local, we are dealing with the local matter. And let me take this opportunity to explain that the structure of TEU is like this. We have the national officers, we have the regional officers, we have the district officers, then we have the local health officers. What we are talking about is the local health officers and not the entire TEU, where there will be confusion. So this one, there's no ambiguity of what we have done. So if we have any asset here in KNUST, it is ours. It is ours. When we have other assets in Accra, that belongs to the entire TEU as a body, all of us. It belongs to them. But we are talking about the assets in the various locality. It's what we are saying, that we are taking them. And if you also liability, we have also taken it, because the two goes together.
We are here to present a document to the Vice Chancellor.
Presenting a letter to the management of KNUST to formally announce its presence on campus, the association said it will work harmoniously with the management at the various universities. For JoyNews, Emmanuel Bright Kweku reporting.
Now, governance advisor and CEO of the Kufuor Foundation, Professor Bafo Agyemang-Duah, has expressed disappointment at the level of corruption in Ghana, especially among politicians. The controversy surrounding the will of the late former CEO of the Forestry Commission has got anti-corruption crusaders worried. They blame the canker on the lack of political will. Professor Agyemang-Duah, in a yet-to-be-aired interview on PM Personality Profile, told host Aisha Ibrahim that making the country's asset declaration regime regimental is one key way to check corruption among government appointees.
And even the mechanisms that we have created to check, we are not serious in enforcing them. Typical example, declaration of assets. Who has been serious with that? The law itself is even nebulous. The law itself is ineffective. Yes. I don't know who wrote the Constitution, what they had in mind. Or were they pretending they can check corruption by simply saying, declare your assets and go away. So that gives politicians the courage to acquire wealth with careless abandon, as we have just seen in recent days. Aisha, I think the problem is multifaceted. And if we are serious, we have to approach them that way. Those we can control, especially assets, declaration. We should strengthen it to make sure those who who break it are penalized.
Well, the full interview airs at 9 p.m. this evening on the JoyNews channel. Do make a date. You're watching News Desk with me, Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah. We'll bring you more shortly. Do stay. Thank you for staying. This is News Desk. To some other stories now, only one woman contested in the recent Ashanti Regional Executive elections of the New Patriotic Party. Victoria Nyako Owusu-Echao beat 5 men to win the position of second vice chairperson of the party. She joins 2 other female executives whose positions were reserved. Her priority is to whip up interest of women in politics, galvanizing enough support for the party. Nanaya Ojima has more in the following report.
Out of the 17 positions up for take, the office of the Women Commissioner and Deputy were exclusive to women. The other 15, open for all, had only 1 female in the contest. With 422 votes out of 799 ballots cast, Victoria Nyako Owusu-Echao beat 5 others to win.
I'm taking a move for the ladies following me to know that from chairman to youth organizing, a woman can do. The woman position is not for only women's organizer. Women can do anything in the position from chairman to youth organizer. So I'm advising them. They shouldn't go always, I'm going for women's organizer. And now I've seen many constituencies. They have first vice women, they have second vice women, and even some of the constituency, even my constituency in Shaiso, we have 5 women.
Research has shown political campaign funding has hindered female participation in politics. In 2016, 37 out of 275 members of parliament were women. The figure in 2020 increased to 40, but continues to fall short of the minimum 30% UN recommendation threshold deemed satisfactory by activists at the Beijing Conference of 1995. Mrs. Owusu-Echao explains the way around the challenge.
So my delegate voted for me from the serve. I've served the party since 1992 to 2022. So I started my journey or campaign from Egaso, and when I went there, they gave me encouragement. They didn't ask me any question, because if I told them what I have done for the party since 1992, they told me that they have to reward me because I have to be rewarded, and they did it.
Meanwhile, the second vice chair wants to prove her worth among the men through meaningful contribution towards the party's Breaking the 8 agenda. For JoyNews, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
Now let's go back to our earlier story on the commemoration of the June 3 twin disaster. And it's been 7 years since that unfortunate incident occurred. It left about 154 persons dead, many others injured and missing. Victims continue to face difficulties. Well, my colleague Samuel Kojo-Brace has been speaking to some of them who are calling for compensation.
Broke out, and it caused a lot of devastation. As you can see, all the scraps here are remnants of the cars that got burnt on that day. Today, 7 years on, we are here to interact with victims of the disaster.
Daddy na nsoto na me no me wife na nam ene me ba ne me bra ye nipa 4 nti yadru ase na eflade ye no mechanic hase nti ye na ebe gina ase nti ya gina ona me wife say mindani me chi na me hwe na ejao mindani me nkwa na eja beto mitiso me hu hwibiem nti me expect team na 37 na 37 so ko da on sa time no na me say my wife me brother me busa for o mewu ndi me dawa e be discharge me ansana psychologist for ya mo me nche na me nim de okoso de na but yanka be see my wife no o mo admission reach ɛna me so mo 37 nti na me so me gidi saa da e be discharge me na chem so me wife me busa for me film nti na enye easy na me di bibia e di ma nyame set the nyame na e ma nyame na e nti.
And on that day he was here with the wife, child and a brother when all of a sudden the wife said fire. Immediately he turned, there was fire on his head, and that's everything he recalls. By the time he realized he was at 37, so many operations. He's gone through 20 of such operations just to recover to be how he is today. He says that you know, he lost a huge thing on the skull there. We are showing to you on the screen now. That's his skull as it is today. You know, from that particular accident, it's quite a huge one. You need to have be brave enough to watch this. He says that whilst at the hospital, they didn't tell him that the wife, the child, and the brother have all died. It was after, when he was being discharged, when psychologists came to him and worked on him to understand what was happening. He says they only paid his medical bills, but he has not received anything like compensation. And because of lack of funds, he's not able to go for reviews.
I'm a father of a disease.
Okay.
That very fateful, that very sad one. I was at work and the rain started. It rained in the morning, and in the evening it started again. And my son is also going to work. So
he was going to work that evening?
He's going to work that very day. So I was there. It was raining heavily, and my wife too, and is in the market. So, in fact, I'm willing to come and see them because I know where they are. It's very, very distant. I couldn't come. The next morning, I had a call from my wife that the water has taken my son away. So my son, he didn't burn, but he was drowned. He's drowned, yes, by the water.
That's Kojobre speaking to some of those affected by the June 3 disaster. Let's go back to that story about 3 persons being granted bail for their involvement in the flogging of 2 lovers over a viral sex video. My colleague Rafiq Salam joins us. Hello, Rafiq. What's the update on that story this morning?
The update is that CAM has really returned to the Upper West Regional Capital following the release of these 3 persons who were alleged to be in the flogging of the 2 youngsters. And so there were a series of meetings that were held yesterday. One has to do with an emergency rescue meeting chaired by the Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Abu-Baidoo Sali. After that, they rolled out of the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council and then moved straight to the Palace of the Wana. And then they held a meeting at the Wana's Palace, which was closed doors, after which there was a reciprocal meeting at the office of the Upper West Regional Minister. So later in the day, around 1 thereabout, the 3 suspects were granted bail by the court presided over by Justice Jonathan Abu-Baidoo. The reasons that he adduced given this particular bail was that he wants the tension in the town not to be exhibited, and then also since the 3 suspects that were arrested were not the prime suspects, I think that the police needs to do their best, use best policing practices to apprehend the mastermind of this flogging. And then also later, the 25 realtors, alleged realtors
Hello, Rafiq. Too bad we lost Rafiq there. He was just explaining to us the reasons the judge gave for granting these 3 suspects bail. Interestingly, these are not the prime suspects. So I was just going to find out from Rafiq what exactly their involvement in the incident was, for which reason the police picked them up. I would also try to get some answers to the one's involvement in all of this, because earlier we had heard that he dissociated himself, and later he says that he gave the go-ahead for that incident to occur. We have Rafiq back. Hello, Rafiq. Sorry, we lost you there. Just to find out, you mentioned that these 3 persons who've been granted bail are not the prime suspect. So what is their exact involvement in that particular incident?
The court, according to the facts of the case presented by the prosecutor, Detective Sergeant Martin Doboke, he stated that the first person, who happens to be Bushwan Kidiri, was arrested for being the one who took the young girl to the One House Palace, where the alleged flogging took place. So for them, his crime was crime abatement. And then also the other 2 sub-chiefs that were also arrested and taken to the that were also arrested also were at the palace. They were suspected to be the one who ordered the flogging of the 2 youngsters. But in this case, they told the court that they were not responsible. But the detective sergeant himself also told the court that there's really a mastermind of this flogging, who happens to be one Deguna State Adams Pelpo, who they are looking for. And so the court decided that these people are not the prime suspects. And once that you have arrested them and taken their statements, there's no need keeping them in police custody. And so they think that in order not to exhibit the situation, they think that they should be released on bail to come back next week.
All right,
but earlier we were talking about the one the that he made, talking about that statement that his spokesperson Na Jipena Kadir Ibrahim gave. Yes, the one says that according to the statement that he is responsible for whatever. He owns the public, the palace, and then he is responsible and several for whatever that's transpired at the palace. And you know, after that statement that came out, at least it has really also toned down tension or the mood in the municipality.
But Rafiq, sorry to interject, Rafiq, but earlier we had heard him say he was not a part of this. He dissociated himself. So why the U-turn now?
The U-turn now is that he's now saying that maybe probably due to the pressure that came forth after the arrest of these 3 suspects. Because if you know the story very well, this is a group that was formed by the overlord himself somewhere around 2021 to deal with the issue of these leaked sex videos and also the issues of gays and lesbians. And so for now, if something untoward happens at the palace, and then the one is saying that he was not at the palace and he's trying to dissociate himself from it, that clearly means that people will be left to their own fate. But now he has made a U-turn, and then for me, the one statement is mirroring on the society, and so at least he's somebody that's well respected in the community. Now that he has owned up, and tension has come down in the community, and then they are looking forward to what they will do legally, at least to bring the case to a close.
Rafiq Salam there, he's my colleague in the Upper West region, giving us updates on that particular development. Now, some teachers in basic schools in the Central region are advocating free supply of sanitary pads to girls at the basic level. They say many of the girls continue to absent themselves from school and in some cases are forced to give sex in exchange for sanitary pads. The situation, they say, is affecting the educational fortunes of these girls, especially those in rural areas. They made the appeal as part of the Central Regional Minister's Menstrual Hygiene Advocacy campaign in selected communities. There's more in the following report.
The campaign by the Central Regional Minister is geared towards distributing 7,000 sanitary pads, 2 to each of the 35,000 young girls, as well as to educate them on their menstrual health, personal hygiene, and reproductive health issues. The minister took her campaign to Abu-Baidoo, Sword Pond, Isacho, Gomwapoton, and Senya Breku. The girl child coordinator at Abu-Baidoo, Kwamankese, called for the taxes to be removed on sanitary pads as the pads have become very expensive for the girls to buy. She says the situation is affecting the educational outcomes of girls at the basic level in the central region.
There's one peculiar problem associated with them, and that is girls absenting themselves from school when they are menstruating because they cannot get sanitary pads. Others come to school and then they mistakenly stain themselves, and if the teachers are not able to provide them with a sanitary pad to take care of it, they have to go home. Meaning when they go home, they are not coming back. That is the end of it. And they will stay in the house till they are done with it, whether it's 5 days or 3 days, the number of days they are done with it before they come to school. And this is a problem because they can't be absenting themselves from school almost every month just because of menstruation. It should be a natural thing, a normal thing. But here's the case, because of menstruation, something as normal and as natural as that, they would have to stay out of school. And most of our villages, because of this, and then the situation of their families, they have to, some girls have resorted to depending on men, and we know the consequences, teenage pregnancies and all that. We want to avoid that. So my appeal on behalf of the whole directorate, AAK directorate, I would appeal that if the taxes on the sanitary pads will be taken off, we'll be very much grateful. Better still, if the students can be given these sanitary pads for free, it will be very appreciated, because this is one major thing that is affecting the girls in this district.
Speaking on the campaign, Central Regional Minister Justina Marigodasan indicated she would do more in ensuring nothing stands in the way of girls in the region in their quest to be educated.
It's quite unfortunate to hear that sometimes when these young girls want to do these normal things that they are supposed to do, need to stay off the classroom because some don't have the money to go and buy the pad themselves. Some are using other things to really take care of their flows that are coming. And it's quite worrying. Being a woman myself, I thought it's wise that we can also do something to support them. Because one of the things that I heard and it moved me was that a particular girl, because they didn't have money to buy a sanitary pad, a gentleman had to give her one, and in an attempt, slept with her.
She says her move is not a one-off thing and detailed plans of the Regional Coordinating Council.
What we are trying to do at the Regional Coordinating Council is to prepare the reusable ones, so that next month when we are coming around, we'll come with the reusable ones. By then, these disposable ones would have finished, and then we'll place them with the reusable ones, at least 2 of them, and then they will be comfortable to stay in school. We want to really encourage girls' enrollment and the retention of girls in school.
The Regional Minister's campaign is intended to address the challenges, discrimination, myths, taboos, and other injustices against girls and women. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejenyakon, Cape Coast.
And here in our studios at Kokomlemle, Accra, I am Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah, and this is News Desk. Do stay with us. Coming up shortly in business, rice farmers want government to consider buying from them. We've got details. Do stay.
Hello and welcome to Business. My name is Darrell Kwao. The Ghana Rice Interprofessional Body wants government to consider buying from local farmers for its institutions. According to farmers, that could be a huge boost for just not the farmers, but also the government as well. Speaking at the launch of the National Rice Festival in Bontanga in the Kumbungu district of the Northern Region, President Nana Ejay Ayes said is an avenue the association is exploring. He have appealed for reduction of fertilizer prices and access to tractors.
This year, we realized as an association that we can no longer depend on government to do everything for us. So we signed an agreement with a fertilizer company to supply us with fertilizer through the major season and the minor season. But here we are, Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine and Russia. But I think government could have done better than what we are seeing now. As a government, I expect them to at least have a year or two storage of fertilizer for the farmers, because if agriculture is our backbone, why should we wait till the last end before buying fertilizer for farmers? We should have had some stocks somewhere waiting for farmers in case there is a disaster or something. We didn't do that. This is why the association wants to change the narrative. We want to take matters into our own hands. We are going to be approaching the financial institutions, approaching input dealers, so that we can do this thing on our own. We are also asking government enabler of the economy. You can't do agric without government playing its role. This year has been a disappointment for us. We have to call a spade a spade.
Now, the unavailability of data on startups and innovation hubs across the country is said to be a major challenge in policy formulation, investment, and offering solutions that address their needs. Now, according to Director of Research and Policy at the Ghana Hub Network, Edu, the situation needs creation of a database system using talent from within. He was speaking to Joy Business in Tema at the Accra zone of Hackathon 2022. Correspondent Kwame Yanka has more.
Startups and innovation hubs play an important role in the country's economy through creation of jobs and services. However, data in this space is said to be fragmented. In the last 2 years, Ghana Hubs Network has made a deliberate attempt to have a well-structured database. This could contribute significantly to policies, get the needed investments, among other solutions to challenges in the sector. Director for Research and Policy at Ghana Hubs Network, Yao Edu says the Hackathon 2022 is giving talent within the network the platform to create a database system. This is made up of developers from Oti, Eastern, Volta, and Greater Accra regions, and is supported by GIZ Make IT in Africa.
What we did was to come up with a program that would utilize the talent within our network for them to develop a web-based database system that would help us to be able to gather data, especially at the grassroots across the country where startups operate, basically on startup programs, what the startups need, the challenges they are going through, data on startup birth and deaths, to be able to find out about some of the challenges and be able to address them. But more importantly, also on some of the issues that affect startups and hubs, innovation hubs directly, so that we can churn out programs and also engage the various stakeholders, including government, that would help us to be able to create that enabling environment for startups and also innovation hubs to thrive.
After 4 hours of brain-racking, bringing their skills to bear and grilled by judges, Smart Network emerged winners of the two groups which were tasked to create a database system. Joshua Odoe is a member of this team which will compete at the national level this month.
So for me and the team, I think the process and the experience has been enlightening and insightful. I mean, we've gotten the opportunity to understand the challenges of the various hubs and stakeholders. And then we did our best within the 4 hours time frame. We've been able to come up with a prototype and a good plan that...
All right, and that's business. Back to you, Bernice.
And it's now time to have a tech talk today. Kobe Nkrumah is here with us. It's been a while, Spike.
It has been a while. I should be saying it's been a while.
Good to have you. So there's an interesting thing happening in the world of technology. Elon Musk, who is developing cars that can drive themselves without human beings. Now he's opposed to remote working. He wants his workers to come back after COVID. Isn't it interesting?
It is. But then again, when you think about it, it's his work is actually very hands-on. It's a factory that they're working.
But that's the irony of it.
Yeah. So a lot of people would argue that Elon Musk should be pushing for advanced technology to make this possible, for people to even work in the factory remotely. I mean, I should be able to put on VR goggles and then, you know, pull stuff like this. But yeah, it's far out from now. But yeah, his letter is very interesting. If you read the letter, he says, anyone who wishes to do remote work must be in the office for a minimum, and I mean minimum, of 40 hours per week, which is 8 hours a day, or depart Tesla. This is less than we ask of factory workers. And then he says, if there are particularly exceptional contributors for whom this is possible, I will review and approve those exceptions directly. Moreover, the office must be a main Tesla office, not a remote branch office unrelated to the job duties. For example, being responsible for the Freeman factory human relations, but having your office be in another state. Thanks.
Elon.
And he did say somewhere that for people who don't want to go by this, they should be pretending to work somewhere else. In other words, come back to work or
lose your job. Yeah, interesting. But there's more happening in the world of technology.
On the same tangent, an Apple executive has resigned from Apple because of remote work.
Wow.
Now, Apple is allowing people to work 1 day a week, you know, for a certain period, and it will move to 2 days a week after another period, and then 3 days a week. So one of the executives says, this is not flexible enough, so I'm quitting. Yes. So he's a director of machine learning, and he quit because he says the company's return to work policy is not flexible enough for him. So I won't do it again. Like Elon says,
I'm already having ideas, you know. So it's interesting, and I know we anticipated this. You know, during the lockdown, people said, once it began to work for people, once workers began to realize it was possible to stay at home and achieve their targets and make impact in the job place, it will be difficult getting people back into the office space when you could achieve the same results, and even sometimes better, when people work from home. Well, let's just see how it goes. But for people like us,
you
gotta be here.
Yeah, you gotta be here. But I mean, with enough data, these tech companies should be able to tell if remote work is actually helping them or not helping them. So judging from the fact that Apple is not being too flexible means maybe they're facing certain challenges in certain sectors versus others. We've seen companies like Google being more flexible, saying that some departments may not even have to return to work. Airbnb says none of their employees need to be in the office anymore. You can work from anywhere in the world. Yeah, I know you wish you had that, don't you? Just gonna set up some robotized cameras,
virtual, you know, studio, you know,
everything. I'll be at home. I mean, that's what the metaverse is, you know, promising. So let's.
But you have a very imaginative, you know.
I'm looking.
Your imagination is wild.
As should be.
Your world is wild. Okay, so let's just do one last one.
Yes.
And wrap
So
up
the final one is Sheryl Sandberg, who was the chief operations officer for Meta, that was previously Facebook, the mother company. She's stepping down. Now, this is good news, not good news as in her stepping down, but her position as COO has been very, very, you know, inspirational for women and girls, women in tech and girls all around the world, that they can actually hold huge positions in huge companies, because she was second in command to Mark Zuckerberg. And there's lots of people who suggest that she is actually responsible for Facebook, Meta, hitting about the $500 billion market cap. And yeah, she has actually, she's even written a book. So if you're a woman or a girl who's very interested in leadership, I think you should grab that book and give it a read. And yeah, she's saying goodbye. Also because of some of the bad blood that's happening to Facebook. You know, when I say bad blood, basically Facebook, not a lot of people are happy about Facebook and how they're
as it's working now,
Yeah, and a lot of people are suggesting that that is why she's leaving, because it's rubbing off on her and it may impact her personal life or her career.
But she's remaining on the board of directors.
She has to.
Thank you so much, Kobe, and that's it. And just a minute, sports. Did you watch the game between Black Stars and the Black Stars and the Madagascar team?
I will catch up.
Okay, but we're doing well, and there are people who are anticipating better performance from the Black Stars. So let's see how that goes. But that'll be it for this edition of News Desk. Thank you so much for having us. I am Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah, he's Kobe, Spike, and Kruma, and this is JoyNews, independent, fearless, and credible. Do stay. We'll be back at 12 with more news.